When you look at the resume, so to speak, let's forget what the film is, which I never do. But let's look at the resume, and you look at second all-time leading passer in the history of Notre Dame. This is Notre Dame we're talking about. I know we're not talking about air raids in Texas Tech and Houston or anything like that, but it's Notre Dame. They've had some quarterbacks. Second all-time leading passer, and most importantly, he's got the most wins in the history of Notre Dame. The most wins. Notre Dame's been playing football, 130 years, 140 years? Some Heisman Trophy winners, some national championship guys, and he's got the most wins of the bunch. Now, I watch him and don't know any of this stuff, and I think, maybe an undrafted guy maybe sneaks into day 3 and as a backup. Now, am I wrong on the evaluation? Is he just David Green? If you remember, David Green was a phenomenal
Georgia, yeah.
And I said the same thing about Colt McCoy, but Colt was, I think, a better runner and maybe just a shade taller. Colt McCoy was a fantastic college quarterback. I didn't like him for the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And he got bumped up second, third round up in that notch. I was like, no, he's undersized and underarmed. That's a bad combination for a high round pick. That's what I see in Ian Book. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. I think Liam Book was a solid college quarterback who played at Notre Dame during a time when the fact of the matter is they weren't challenged as much as they used to be. I'll give you a stat, right? So there's this info. Well, he's second all time in passing yards, and that to me is just as much about being from a longevity standpoint as it is just raw production. He's not in there.
Notre Dame recruits. So how come they haven't recruited somebody that's been able to come and beat him out?
Well,
that's the other part of it.
I would say, I think that's coach's choice more than it is not having a player. Anyone that watched Phil Dracovic this year, honestly, with an open mind and objective, said, "How come that kid's not playing at Notre Dame right now?" Mm-hmm. So I think that was more of Liam ran the type of offense they want to run, which is protect the football, just be conservative, ball control. Get the ball where it's supposed to go offense. And it was rely on your O-line, rely on your run game, and rely on the fact you've got one of the best defenses in the country. That's not Phil Dracovic's game. Phil Dracovic is more of a playmaker, doing things outside the box and all those types of things in the pass game. And they made the choice, for whatever reason, right or wrong, to stick with Ian Book. But the game has changed too. And Notre Dame was never a team that was known for throwing the football. And, Tony Rice was a Heisman runner-up in 1990. Or 1989, he threw 2 touchdown passes. He threw 9 interceptions.
1,000 yards passing was
yeah. And so,
now you're talking my era. Those are my guys. I try not to go.
The game has changed. And look, Ian Book has done a great job. The 30-5 is impressive, but he's 5-5 against opponents that finished ranked in the top 25. 5-5. Tony Rice's record in 88 and 89, just those 2 seasons, he was 11-1 against teams that finished in the top 25. So.
To be fair, it seems to me most of those top 25 teams that they're playing are usually top 10 in at the end of the season. Playoff games, bowl games, or are they getting, because
it's about half.
To me, 10 games against top 25, that's an SEC schedule.
Yeah, but that's over 3 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Where Tony Rice played 12 in 2 years. And you look at who they beat. So that he beat Northwestern. That was a team that finished a 9-5 top 25 team. Syracuse, Navy, North Carolina, and then Clemson, right? Now, the Clemson game this year was a big win. And you could thank Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah for that one because he basically gifted the offense 10 points on back-to-back possessions. But then you look at the losses. Blowout loss to Alabama, 2 blowout losses to Clemson, games in which they scored 3, 10, and 14 points, and 2 of their 3 touchdowns in those games came in late in the fourth quarter with the game in doubt. They scored 17 points against Georgia last year. So it's not even like they're losing these games in competitive fashion. The fact is the offense just isn't anywhere close to being good enough in those games. And Ian Book is a gritty, tough kid. He's a great leader. I think that he is a guy that I could see sticking in the NFL as a Chase Daniel kind of guy, not someone you ever necessarily want to be your starter. If you're a team that's got an established young to middle of aged sort of NFL quarterback, and you're just looking for a guy to be a backup that can go in and get you out of a game if you need be, he's a guy that I would look at because the character's there. He's going to show up and work every day. He's going to have a good attitude, all those kind of things you want in a backup quarterback. He's not going to be raising heck about why am I not starting over, Pat Mahomes, right? He says, hey, what's my job? What am I going to do? He's a great teammate. So in those regards, I think there's some things to like. And the fact he has played on the big stage a lot. I mean, when you're at Notre Dame, you're playing Duke on national TV, right? I mean, nobody else really does that except maybe Alabama. So I think there's some things to like about him if you're just looking for a pure backup quarterback in a year that I don't think is great at quarterback from a depth standpoint. Very good at the top, but once you get past like 8, 9, I just don't see a lot there that I like, whereas at least with Ian Book, you know what you're getting. But, the stats and all those kind of things, I don't put a lot in that because Notre Dame didn't start throwing the football till Charlie Weiss showed up. Right. And Jimmy Clausen left after his junior year. If Jimmy Clausen comes back for his senior year, Ian Book is not sniffing Jimmy Clausen's number.